Arrival begins as a first contact film. 12 alien vessels appear across the Earth. Governments panic, militaries mobilize. News media turn uncertainty into fear. And the world asks the question it always asks when it meets something unknown. Are they a threat? But Arrival is not really about whether aliens are dangerous. It is about a deeper problem. What if the danger is not that the alien mind wants to destroy us? What if the danger is that our own language, fear, and framework of perception are too narrow to understand it? The real mystery of Arrival is not the ship. The real mystery is language. Because in this film, language is not simply a tool for communication. Language is a structure of reality. It tells us what counts as before, what counts as after, what counts as cause, what counts as consequence, and what counts as a choice. So the deepest question in Arrival is not simply, can Louise Banks translate the alien language? The deeper question is, what happens when a human being learns a language that does not experience time as a line? Because Arrival is not about seeing the future. It is about learning a non-linear language in which the future can become part of the present. When the alien vessels arrive, humanity does not begin with understanding. It begins with interpretation. The ship is silent. The heptapods are hidden behind mist. Their bodies are unfamiliar. Their language does not look like speech, writing, or any human system of meaning. So before humans understand what the aliens are saying, they already translate them through fear. The vessel becomes a mirror. Military leaders see a threat. Governments see a strategic risk. News media see panic. Ordinary people see the collapse of certainty. But Louise Banks approaches the encounter differently. She does not begin by asking, what do they want? She begins with a more basic question. Do we even know what they mean? This difference is everything. For Louise, translation is not simply the movement from one human language to another. It is not like translating English into Mandarin or Japanese into French. The problem is deeper. Can a human question still hold its meaning when it enters a non-human circuit of thought? When humans ask the heptapods, "What is your purpose on Earth?" they think they are asking a simple question. But the question already carries human assumptions. Purpose, intention, arrival, weapon, tool, threat, gift. These words do not float freely. They belong to a human world, a human history, a human fear of invasion, a human habit of turning the unknown into something that must be controlled. So the first contact problem is not only that humans cannot understand the alien answer. The problem is that humans may not even understand their own question. Louise's task is therefore not just linguistic, it is philosophical. She has to slow down the human impulse to name, classify, and dominate. She has to create a space where meaning can appear before fear destroys it. That is why her method matters. She does not treat language as a code to break. She treats language as a world to enter. At the center of Arrival is Heptapod, the written language of the aliens. Its symbols are circular. But the circle is not just an aesthetic choice. It is a visual form of their consciousness. Human language usually moves like a line. One word comes after another. One sentence follows the next. Meaning unfolds through sequence. And because our language moves this way, our lives often feel this way too. Past becomes present. Present becomes future. Cause leads to effect. A choice creates a consequence. A beginning moves toward an ending. But Heptapod does not work like that. The heptapods do not write a sentence by starting at the first word and moving toward the last. Their written language appears as a whole form, a complete structure. To write it, you must already know where the whole sentence is going. The end is not added later. The end is already part of the beginning. This is why the language changes Louise. She is not simply memorizing alien vocabulary. She is learning a different model of time. Scientifically, the film is not saying that language magically changes the physics of the universe. The more precise idea is smaller but stronger. Language can shape how a mind organizes experience. Human beings do not experience time only as clock time. We experience time through memory, prediction, sequence, metaphor, and story. In many human languages, we map time onto space. We look forward to the future. We look back on the past. We say a deadline is approaching. We say an old memory is behind us. These are ordinary phrases, but they reveal something important. We often think time through spatial models. Language does not simply label time after we experience it. Language helps build the frame through which time becomes thinkable. Arrival takes this cognitive idea and turns it into science fiction. What if a language did not map time as a line? What if its structure trained the mind to receive an event as a whole? What if a sentence did not move from beginning to end, but contained its ending from the start? That is what happens to Louise. The visions of Hannah first look like memories: a child's face, a drawing, a lake, a question, a loss. At first, the audience assumes these images come from the past. But slowly, the film reveals that they are not memories. They are future experiences arriving early. This is the great reversal of Arrival. The film itself has been written like Heptapod. We thought we were watching a story moving forward, but the story was never only moving forward, it was circular. The beginning already contained the ending. The ending was already hidden inside the beginning. Arrival does not simply surprise us with a twist, it changes the grammar of our perception. The climax with General Shang is the moment when Heptapod becomes human action. This scene is easy to misunderstand. On the surface, Louise receives information from the future. She learns Shang's private phone number. She learns the words once connected to his wife. Then, in the present, she uses that information to stop China from attacking the alien vessel. But philosophically, the scene is much deeper. Louise does not simply remember a useful fact from the future. She acts from inside a non-linear sentence of time. In ordinary human time, the present creates the future. We act now, and something happens later. But in this scene, the future also reaches backward and gives shape to the present. At a future ceremony, Shang gives Louise the words that will save the world. In the present, Louise speaks those words to Shang. That present action makes the future ceremony possible. So cause does not move in only one direction. The scene forms a circle. The future gives Louise the words. Louise speaks those words in the present. And that present makes the future possible. This is not time travel in the usual sense. It is grammar becoming action. Heptapod language has changed Louise's perception so deeply that a future memory can become a present responsibility. And what stops the war is not strategy, it is grief. Louise does not defeat Shang with military logic. She does not prove that the aliens are harmless. She does not win an argument about geopolitics. She reaches the human being beneath the commander. She speaks to the place where power still remembers loss. That is why this scene is so important. The world is saved not by information alone, but by the right words reaching the right wound. A military crisis becomes a linguistic crisis. A linguistic crisis becomes an emotional crisis. And the emotional truth that stops the violence is not hope. It is mourning. The man who commands an army is interrupted by the memory of being a husband. This is the ethical heart of Arrival. Language can turn fear into war, but language can also return a person from power to grief. And grief, in this film, is not weakness. Grief is the proof that meaning still exists. So when Louise speaks to Shang, she is not just translating.
She is using non-linear language to carry a future loss into the present moment. That is the first time the alien gift becomes fully human. Not because Louise can see the future, but because she can accept responsibility for a future she has already received.
This is where Arrival connects quietly to another Denis Villeneuve world, Dune. Paul Atreides also sees the future, but for Paul, future vision becomes a trap. The more he sees, the more his choices narrow. His knowledge turns into political destiny, religious violence, and historical burden. Paul sees possible futures, and each vision makes him less free. Louise also sees the future, but Arrival treats future knowledge differently. For Louise, the future is not empire, it is not prophecy, it is not conquest. It is love and loss. She sees that if she chooses Ian, they will have a daughter. She sees Hannah's life, her laughter, her questions, her illness, her death. And she also sees that Ian will not be able to forgive her for choosing this path while knowing where it leads. This is the real philosophical wound of Arrival. If you know the pain hidden inside love, can you still choose love? If you know the ending, does the beginning lose its meaning? Or does knowing the ending make the beginning even more precious? Louise is not choosing suffering because suffering is beautiful. She is not saying that grief is good. She is not saying that tragedy justifies itself. That would be too simple. What she accepts is the whole shape. If she refuses the pain, she also refuses Hannah. She refuses the laughter, the voice, the small moments, the drawings, the questions, the strange intimacy of being a mother to someone who will one day be gone. For most of us, nostalgia belongs to the past. It is the feeling of looking back at something lost. But for Louise, nostalgia arrives from the future. She loves a child who has not yet been born as if she is already remembered. The future becomes intimate before it happens. This is the deepest emotional consequence of Heptapod. It does not only let Louise see what will happen, it teaches her to receive life as a complete form, a form where love and loss are not opposites, a form where the first moment already contains the last, a form where meaning does not depend on ignorance. This is why Louise's decision is not fatalism. Fatalism would mean she has no choice, but Louise does choose. Her freedom is not the freedom to remain ignorant. Her freedom is not the power to escape the future. Her freedom is the ability to say yes to a life whose ending she already knows. That is a harder freedom, a quieter freedom, a freedom without illusion. Arrival is not an AI movie, but it may be one of the most important films for thinking about artificial intelligence. Because it shows that the hardest part of meeting a non-human mind may not be intelligence. It may be interpretation. We are now surrounded by systems that speak in human language. They answer questions, they summarize, they reason, they imitate tone, they produce meaning-like patterns. But they do not share human bodies, human childhood, human death, human memory, human grief. Their language makes them feel close, but the structure beneath that language may be much stranger than we want to admit. Arrival warns us against two opposite mistakes. One mistake is to treat every non-human intelligence as a monster. The other is to treat every speaking system as if it must think like us. Louise's path is more difficult. She listens without immediately possessing. She interprets without immediately reducing. She understands that communication is not the same as control. The question is not only whether machines, aliens, or non-human minds can learn our language. The deeper question is whether we can recognize the limits of our own. Because every language carries a model of the world, and every model hides something. Arrival asks what happens when the hidden part becomes visible, when time stops being a line, when the future enters the present, when a sentence becomes a life. By the end of Arrival, the alien language has changed Louise, but it has also changed us. We can no longer watch the film as a straight line, we understand it as a circle. We can no longer see Hannah's scenes as flashbacks, we understand them as the future arriving early. and we can no longer see language as decoration around thought. Language becomes the structure through which thought experiences reality. Arrival turns first contact into a question about consciousness. It turns translation into a question about time. It turns diplomacy into a question about grief. And it turns love into a question about whether meaning can survive complete knowledge. Louise does not use the future to escape suffering. She uses the future to accept a life whose meaning cannot be separated from suffering. The heptapod gift is not a weapon. It is not even just a language. It is a new relationship to existence, a way of seeing that the future is already folded into what we choose now. So maybe Arrival's deepest question is not, can language change time? Maybe the deeper question is, if the whole shape of your life were revealed to you, would you still choose to live it? Louise's answer is not spoken as an argument. It is spoken as a life chosen with full knowledge of its ending, a life where love and grief are not opposites, a life where the first moment already contains the last. That is the language that changes time.